Hi everybody, it is Wrath of Kings week here on beatsofwar.com, and it is time for your chance to win some of the fantastic prizes we have up for grabs. First up, we have 4 2-player starter bundles to get you and a mate into the world of Wrath of Kings, which include the Honor and Treachery 2-player starter set, the Rising Conflicts book, the Book 1 card deck, and a token set. On top of that, one lucky winner is going to be getting an expanded version of this 2-player starter set, which will include an additional Nasier starter box and an additional Goritsi starter box. Get your comments in on Beasts of War, Facebook and YouTube on any of the themed content this week for your chance to win. Hi everybody, welcome to Wrath of Kings week here on Beasts of War. I am joined by Dave Taylor and Bryan Steele from Cool Mini or Not, and this week we are taking you into the world of Wrath of Kings. We are giving you your sort of gateway into the story, the world, and who the main players are in the world. So, guys, can you give me a quick overview of what's happened in the story so far of this world?
Sure. Well, the world of Arikania, which is this very deeply, fantastical, heavy magic feeling world, was once run by the ancient king, a godlike being that every single part of this world ran through him, through his consciousness, and then he had his children.
Yep.
So he has 5 kids.
5 kids.
Okay, so what does that mean for the world? He's had 5 children. Godlike powers. I'm guessing the kids are going to be reasonably okay.
Yeah,
Reasonably, almost demigod sort of style. But he was almost immortal. Not 100%, but he did foresee his own demise, foresaw his death. So he thought, okay, I need to take care of this continent. I need to send out my children to conquer and have their own kingdoms, so my progeny can work together to keep this continent together.
Okay, so what we've got is an overarching father who has foreseen his death. His children are now going out into the world, carving out, sort of kingdoms that he has given to them, or something like that?
Kind of pointed in the right direction. You go this way, you take this chunk of land, you take this chunk of land, and then when I'm gone, the world will continue to function because my power through you will keep things going smoothly.
Okay, did it continue to go smoothly?
No,
not exactly.
Those things never do.
Yeah.
Sibling rivalry is an amazing thing.
So I'll assume the ancient king is now gone within the world, and are his children still about?
Some of them.
Yeah.
As things initially, obviously they all were, and as they created their own kingdoms within Arikania, the arguments and the power struggle of Daddy's vacuum is no longer there.
Yeah.
So they started squabbling and they started trying to land grab here and there, and it all started out as little battles and little skirmishes, and a lot of subterfuge, a lot of playing behind the scenes,
A lot of politicking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Well, let's start meeting some of the factions because you've given me some of your fantastic artwork to show off here. So let's jump straight into the first one here. If technology decides to work for me, of course. Sometimes it misbehaves, but first up, what are we looking at here?
Okay, this is basically on a coastal town, coastal Nasier town. Obviously, we have a ruined ship here that's been incorporated into the architecture of Nasier.
So I'm looking at this, and it looks like a vast monumental warship broken up on the rocks, and now they've built their stuff around it. Was this originally an Nasier vessel?
I don't believe this particular one was. If I'm correct, the chunk of story that goes along with it, wasn't it was it a Goritsi boat that crashed? I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do know that the Nasier are really, really adept at using what's putting in front of them and making the most of a terrible situation.
I see. So they're very much just, a grind through sort of force, yeah?
Very dedicated to their house, extremely devoted.
Okay, we have another image here. I believe it's still Nasier. So what are we seeing in this one?
So in this one, we've got a number of different troops around, but the ones arrayed behind with the big hammers are the Shadow Veils, the Savoth Shadow Veils, which are a new unit yet to be released.
Oh, right.
So, but in here as well, we can see, so we have Shadow Veil at the front, the hammer about to face off against a Pelagarth brute, and the brute leaders there on the left.
Yeah.
But so this is a training situation.
Yeah, so this is a very, very militant sort of society we're looking at here for the Nasier to begin with?
They're very, very structured and organized. They're not everybody in the society is part of the military.
Okay.
But their military is very, very regimented, very structured. Everybody has a particular role that they fulfill.
I see. And then now we're looking at where is this?
Again, this is a Nasier coastal town.
I was going to say, this is a town on the coast that takes into consideration the sometimes tumultuous weather patterns and things that the coast suffers. Because if you take a look at some of these smaller huts, they're raised up to deal with the fact that there are some horrors from the deep that could arrive at any moment, or crashing waves, rising tides.
Yeah, and we are seeing, plenty of fortifications in here. So is everybody pretty much on a war footing in this world?
Now they are.
I was gonna say, by the time our second book comes around and you read that, the first book deals with a lot of the back history and a lot of what brought us here.
Right. So the first book is where we're seeing those skirmishes you were talking about, yeah?
Correct.
Okay.
The second book starts off very early on with things have gone bad, and they've gone bad hard. And so you can definitely tell by some of the new units that are coming out that there's this escalation of idea that, whereas the Ancient King probably had the forethought to know that there's going to be some argument, but now it's gotten down. It is actually down to brother versus sister versus brother.
Okay.
It's gotten rough.
Okay. Yep. So I assume we're a long time into the future since the king has fallen and his siblings have taken over the world?
A couple of 100 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, moving swiftly along, who are we seeing in this next image?
This is
a Hadross.
The Hadross port city. House Hadross, when things started to look like it was going to go rough, they started looking for a way to survive the onslaught.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they discovered were things called the deep voices.
Okay.
And the deep voices spoke to them, these whispers that told them one way for you to make it is to adapt yourself to the magic and come below the oceans.
This sounds a little sinister.
Well, when they got there, it did exactly what they needed to do. I mean, they're surviving, they're thriving, the house has never been stronger. But it did require them to give up a lot of their bodies and become these kind of aquatic, almost monsters in some cases.
I see.
But not the entire kingdom. There are still, but in order to be able to thrive, I mean, they're not simply, just here's this army. There are a lot of citizens and that sort of thing.
So this would be somewhere out from the main kingdom, out from the capitals and stuff, where it's they've still got the landward sort of forces. Yeah.
Still very important to be able to have a kingdom to function. Is the ability to trade and at least have some kind of commerce above, in politicking and communication. Yeah, and that's really hard to do if you're completely underwater.
Yeah, well, if your statement or your rebuttal to someone's argument is a set of bubbles, you're not going to get to it. Okay, next up, this looks beautiful stuff. Yeah. So which house is this for? Because I'm guessing this isn't Hadross.
No, this is not Hadross. This is Shael Han.
And well, who are the Shael Han, Bryan?
The Shael Han are a house that is dedicated to the enlightenment and growth of their people and the actual coordination and cooperation between the spirit world and themselves. And what this is basically a gigantic royal temple to the idea of the enlightenment, the path of how they learn to deal with the elemental world. Okay,
now the elemental world isn't something you've touched on so far in this video. What is that?
Magic in Arikania is not like a lot of your role-playing game magics and things where it's like, this write down a spell and make it happen. Magic all stems from this elemental plane, this universe beyond our universe. And the different houses have different ways to kind of tap into that and utilize it.
Yeah. Okay, so in the case of Shael Han, how do they tap into it?
Through like meditative focus, your higher, almost martial art style, this general feel of they kind of make the arrangements and make the agreements with them. In fact, to the point where there's actually several units in their army that are just chunks of this elemental force given form.
Celestial spirits. That they've,
All right, well, taking a quick step back then, for the Nasier, how did they incorporate that in? 'Cause
Okay.
I do want to quickly just hear from each faction how they're dealing with this elemental plane and this elemental magic that seems to drive the world.
So the Carteresh is the land that House Nasier rules over, and there were a lot of basically the elemental beings that were in that area were fire elementals, fire demons, and they have essentially made a pact with some of them and said, okay, if we
The Affrenti.
Okay.
Yep. If we can put you into this mask,
Okay.
we can bring you from the elemental plane into our plane, put you into this mask,
Yeah, which
and then
we're seeing on some of these guys.
put this mask on our warriors. That will improve our warriors. They'll have your strength, your power, your fire, your passion.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. So
Okay.
all of these masks have an elemental or a demon bound inside them.
So far we have Shael Han being sort of, meditative Zen masters making deals with the stuff, and the Nasier that just seem to go, okay, you see this mask? You're an elemental, right?
Let's jam it into it and then jam it on somebody's head.
Yeah.
Yep, that's pretty much
Okay.
it.
And the Hadross, I'm assuming with them, it is having went down into the deeps. The elemental changes that have happened with them are what's driving them. Then?
A lot of it is a physical change. I shouldn't say a lot. Almost all of it. There are very few humanoids within the actual gifted members of House Hadross.
Yeah.
These deep voices. It is yet unknown as to whether or not they are from the elemental plane or possibly something else.
Ooh, that. Okay, you're going to have to keep an eye on the storyline for that one, guys. Back to the Shael Han. Seeing some of their cities and stuff, it is very, very beautiful. I believe this is still Shael Han, yes?
Yep. So this is another view of a Shael Han city. It's this is probably a diplomatic quarter.
Yeah.
Because you can see there are some House Goritsi symbols and some House
Teknes, yeah.
Goritsi flags, some Teknes gears.
Yeah.
But
So there is a diplomatic interplay between the factions in the storyline of this, yeah?
definitely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. Next up is... Ooh, what is this? This is nice.
So this is another port city in Shael Han. Again, this one looks much more peaceful and calm. It's that meditative quality.
Yeah.
One thing I'll mention here is that we've shown a lot of port cities. Arikania is a continent where the kingdoms are basically carved up by or separated by mountain ranges, by large rivers, by that sort of thing. So trade generally occurs around the coast.
Right.
So having these ports is super important.
Okay, excellent. Next up is a little bit of a more sinister looking piece of artwork. Who is this for?
This would be deep into the kingdom of Teloria.
Okay.
Which is the House Goritsi, which I know they're your favorite currently.
Big wolves. I love big wolves and vampires. Yes.
The House Goritsi, when things started to go bad, and the actual king, the Scion Pat, he died, and the ruler is Queen Irene, the Queen Scion.
Okay. So the child of the ancient king for this kingdom is currently dead?
Yes.
This is what he said. Not everybody made it.
Okay.
And his queen kind of inherited his power. And she in theory, rules over the kingdom. But it gives her house one of the ways that they've risen to their powers through the gift. Capital G.
Okay.
So again, like Hadross, where there were voices that spoke to them and said, "Come to us." This one is when the gift decides that it's ready to talk to you.
Yeah.
It will talk to you and suggest that perhaps you accept it.
So there is an overarching force within this kingdom that will imbue someone with powers.
Yep.
Okay. So then, quick question: how do we get werewolves and vampires then?
Well, almost exclusively when the males are gifted or receive the gift, they become werewolves. And almost exclusively when females receive the gift, they become vampires.
Ah, I see.
It's, as I said, it's almost exclusively, but not 100%.
Yeah, so this is where we're seeing, the male aspects of, strength, power, brutality, and the female aspects of cleverness, cunning, and subterfuge, and actually that light acrobatic grace. Yeah.
Yep. Where the gift does not choose you for whether or not you're of noble blood, or if you are, this particularly charismatic person. It chooses a person and it takes their greatest kind of core strengths and amplifies that, which is why you do have the occasional female werewolf and the occasional male vampire.
Yeah.
But it's probably because that particular person had all of those traits and the gift chose them because of it.
I see. So, you see, I kind of like that idea because it means that the forces that have been turned into the werewolves or the vampires are really going to, have those core aspects, and that's going to come straight through into whenever they're actually turned into a militaristic unit. And the actual designs for where these people live, it's very much a very cool sort of broken looking world where they're forcing it to their will. And this next piece of artwork, what are we looking at here?
So this is another Tellurian city, and again, there is a very gothic horror sort of feel to where they live, what they have to go through. Before the Scion King went out there to sort of conquer the land, the people really just lived with the horrors that happened, that slunk away into the forests at morning.
Okay, I see.
Creep into their towns at night and spirit them away.
Yeah.
And now they're
they would imagine that, but that might have just been the gift imbuing someone with power and then going, I'm a monster, I must run.
That's definitely a good theory. There's a thing in one of the books, there's a story that says that the gift, kind of like how it chooses a person, for their particularly strengths and weaknesses, is whether or not maybe the gift chose Teluria because of how the people saw things and the monsters already in the land, whether this gift was perfect for this place.
Well, it does feel like each faction so far, they have their own sort of core belief system that I'm guessing was gifted by the children of the ancient king, which then is driving them in these different directions. So it does feel very much like a society has built up over time and over time. And all of that is really coming through, and now it's those different belief systems, the different ethos of a society, which are starting to clash against each other, and each one of them, I'm guessing, is probably going to believe, look, we have the right path for the world. Everybody should do what we're doing.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Okay, we have another faction here, which is looking really cool. Who are these awesome-looking little guys?
Okay, this is House Teknes. House Teknes has chosen to a different way of using that elemental power.
Okay.
Not binding them in masks or inviting them to be to manifest as celestial spirits, but they're taking these elementals and trapping them in technology.
What is the machine they're working on here?
Okay, this one here is actually a war stomper.
Right. Do we have those in game yet?
Yep, they're currently available. Basically, the mechanics that are working on this piece are of the Adani, sort of more dwarven kind of feel.
Yeah.
But they're creating this war stomper, which will be then piloted by another Adani.
Yeah.
And it's just that cool steampunk technological sort of feel to it all.
Yeah. Now, up until this point, this world has felt incredibly magical. Very much high fantasy. To suddenly have a faction jump in and go, by the way, we have machines. It's really cool. I'm just wondering how they pull it off. Now, you said they use the elementals in a different way, yeah?
Yep.
So how do they do that?
Well, basically, you can imagine the furnaces or the steam boilers that they would have on a machine like this, a steam-driven machine. Instead of being powered by like coal fire, that sort of thing, it's powered by the anger of the elemental they've trapped in there.
So stoking the furnace is exactly that. It's poke, 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 poke. Get angry, get angry.
Are you angry enough now? Unleash!
That is awesome. And then the actual worlds we're seeing for them, the actual cities, they, like you said, they had this amazing sort of emerging industrial age coming through in these, which is really cool looking. Is this another port city?
I believe this one is a port city, but it's actually the port has been kind of created, almost like a canal city, where they're bringing the ships in through sets of locks and dikes and things, and bringing them in and dealing with it there, which is for industrialized city like this,
Yeah.
that's going to be way safer than having anything on the coast. Pirates aren't getting through those walls.
No, definitely
so
not.
Teknes is the heart of the Industrial Revolution for Arikania.
Okay, very cool. And then we have one more for the Teknes, which is this glorious piece of machinery. I mean, I can only imagine the man hours that went into with the Teknes to actually build these things. And what would this generate power for the entire city? And how many elementals would you need to jam into that thing to get it running?
Quite a few, I think. Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, so the Teknes are running everything off trapped elementals, right? So whenever it comes to their forces on the ground, we will be having faction chats through the week, but how do they actually look and actually run about whenever they have this elemental trapped in a machine and it's running around? Does that come across in game mechanics?
Several of the different units have got very, very specific. You can see a boiler on their backpack or things like that, and so anytime you see something like that, you can think, well, a lot of that's probably science, but a little of that is probably spirit. There's probably a spirit in there chugging away.
So those boilers would be enhancing their armor, would be enhancing their mobility, enhancing their strength when they hit. So and as I said, a little bit of science, mostly science, a little bit of spirit in there as well.
Well, very, very cool. That has been a fantastic first look at the world of Wrath of Kings. Guys, drop your comments below. Tell us, what do you think of the world of Wrath of Kings so far? Are any of the factions so far jumping out at you as something that you maybe, you want to jump in and explore that story a little bit more? Myself, Brian, and Dave will move on here, and we will see you in the next video.